Coming right up on the broadcast tonight. Leaders of South Korea and Indonesia agreed to boost bilateral investment, trade, and cooperation, sealing 11 MOUs that could lead to construction and energy contracts worth billions of US dollars. The Korean government says it'll punish Nissan Motor with a fine and a recall of the Japanese automaker's diesel sport utility vehicles after accusing it of manipulating emissions. Nissan denies allegations. And changing dynamics in Korea's job market landscape, especially for those younger job seekers. A drive for more entrepreneurs in this country. Part 1 of our 4-part special series. NewsCenter begins right now. It's 9 in Washington, 2 in London, and 10 on a Monday evening here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching Arirang News Center. President Park Geun-hye sat down with her Indonesian counterpart Joko Widodo at the nation's top office earlier this afternoon. The two countries inked a handful of MOUs expanding trade cooperation while also setting their sights on new growth engines moving forward. Agreements that could lead to contracts worth billions of US dollars in construction and energy sectors in particular. Arirang News top office correspondent Song Ji-sun has the details of Seoul-Jakarta bilateral summit.
Meeting at Seoul's top office, President Park Geun-hye and Indonesian President Joko Widodo both stressed the other as a key partner and ally in the region. On the economic front, the leaders signed 11 MOUs to boost cooperation in trade and investment, as well as in new growth sectors like maritime affairs and cultural content. Seoul will get involved in Indonesia's infrastructure projects worth $6 billion US dollars, including construction of a light rail transit system in Jakarta for the 2018 Asian Games. Korean companies will also get involved in developing Indonesia's rich gas reserves and help Jakarta better manage the spatial data with Seoul's ICT systems. Cooperation will also cover the creative economy, especially in the area of cultural content.
양국은 그동안 인프라 및 에너지 개발 분야에서 많은 협력을 해왔는데 이제 신성장 동력 창출을 위한 협력을 강화해 나가야 한다는 것이 조코이 대통령님과 그것의 의견을 같이 하였습니다.
I asked for Korea to play a key role in accelerating Indonesia's industrial development and also to enhance cooperation in creative industries.
In order to upgrade their relations to a comprehensive partnership, after a decade of strategic partnership, the two sides will also expand people-to-people exchanges, especially among youth. Sharing common ground on securing peace and stability in the region and worldwide, the two leaders vowed to closely cooperate in democratizing North Korea, as well as countering terrorism on the international front. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Well, the visiting Indonesian president and his delegation also met with Korean businesses earlier today. Our EG1 reports it marks the beginning of a whole new level of economic cooperation between the two countries.
President Joko Widodo and a number of Indonesian ministers held a special business forum with Korea's trade minister and some 400 local entrepreneurs on Monday. The event served as a platform for ministers from both countries to highlight the importance of economic cooperation, as well as the signing of a number of MOUs promising investment commitment. President Widodo highlighted his country's various stimulus packages and economic reforms, which have helped to open up the Southeast Asian economy, making it free from excessive regulations in order to attract more foreign investment. Over the past few years, Korea has gradually increased its investment commitment in Indonesia to rank as the 7th biggest foreign investor there as of 2015. And with the latest MOUs worth some $2 billion US dollars, Korea is set to jump into Indonesia's solar energy sector and power plant projects.
In the new government, with the new focus in the two things, the first is infrastructure, and the second, how to build 5 sectors, including like manufacturing. MOU focusing to build infrastructure specific in the power generation.
The chairman added that their business meeting with Korean firms resulted with both sides seeking ways to further increase economic cooperation, including boosting imports and exports by easing regulations. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development slashed its economic growth forecast for Korea to the 2% range, adding the country has leeway to cut interest rates further. A number of financial institutions, including the Bank of Korea, have cut the nation's 2016 outlook, fueling concerns of Asia's fourth largest economy falling into a low growth trap. Hwang Ji-hye has more on the reason behind that decision.
Releasing its survey on Korea on Monday, the OECD cut Korea's 2016 growth outlook to 2.7%. The downgrade marks a 0.4 percentage point cut from its previous outlook. For next year, the organization expects Korea to grow 3%, also down 0.6 percentage points from its earlier projection. The OECD cited the aging population and slumping exports as risks the Korean economy is facing. It also pointed to the rapid rise in household debt and the slowing Chinese economy as factors that could further dent the country's growth. The head of OECD's Korea desk, Randall Jones, adds that Korea has room for expansionary fiscal and monetary policies to rev up the economy, although such short-term boosts cannot be a cure-all for tackling the low-growth trend.
And Korea has a very strong fiscal position. If you compare Korea to other OECD countries, by our measure of the general government, Korea is in a surplus, and most OECD countries are in deficit. So far, Korea's current account surplus has been very large, and the capital outflows have been relatively small. So I don't see that as a serious constraint at the moment. So I think there would be room for lower interest rates as well.
He also emphasized a need for a reduction in the amount of red tape in the service sector, which has lower productivity than the manufacturing sector, as well as a decrease in the number of obstacles blocking women's employment to raise the country's growth potential. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has revealed his political agenda vis-a-vis the Korean Peninsula. Trump is now using a softer tone regarding U.S. troops stationed in South Korea, but also bringing up some unprecedented claims that could impact future South Korea-U.S. relations. Hwang Ho-jun has this story.
Trump's foreign policy advisor, Waleed Phares, mapped out the candidate's policy regarding the Korean Peninsula. In an interview with Seoul-based Yonhap news agency published Monday, Phares stated that Trump will try to recalibrate America's relationships with its allies such as South Korea and Japan, influence China and Russia to pressure North Korea, and take action when North Korea decides to continue its belligerent provocations, the so-called four-level approach. Unlike his initial comments regarding U.S. troops in Korea, Donald Trump said he would never abandon South Korea if he becomes president. Trump previously claimed that Seoul pays, quote, peanuts for U.S. troop presence, and even threatened to pull out if he becomes president, unless Seoul covers all the costs.
Our allies are not paying their fair share. Our allies must contribute toward their financial, political, and human costs, have to do it, of our tremendous security burden. But many of them are simply not doing so.
Korea currently pays more than $850 million annually to help cover the cost of USFK presence on the peninsula, which grows by as much as 4% annually through 2018. Pushing a very different tone, Phares said Trump's previous comments were just an expression of principles, only to be considered as a last resort. Trump's foreign policy frontman did, however, reiterate his intention to renegotiate free trade deals from ground zero. Such a move would raise financial alarms for FTA partners like Korea. Still, many experts are cautious about taking Trump's words at face value.
A lot of these comments that are being made are directed at the voters. These are largely political comments, and I wouldn't put much credence into them until we get closer to the election date.
With the U.S. presidential election about 6 months away, it's likely the presumptive Republican nominee will continue to flip-flop on U.S.-related policies, meaning it may be too early still to put any weight on his foreign policy stance regarding Korea. Hwang Woo-jun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea, the U.S. and Japan see the need to team up. The three countries will hold the first ever joint missile defense drills next month on the back of increasing threats from North Korea. Our Kwon So-ah has the specifics of the Trilateral anti-missile exercises.
It's going to be the first time South Korea, the U.S., and Japan conduct a trilateral anti-missile exercise in defense against North Korean threats. Seoul's defense ministry said Monday that the drills are expected to be held on June 28th in Hawaii, prior to the U.S.-led biennial Rim of the Pacific exercise, or RIMPAC, the world's largest multinational maritime warfare exercise scheduled from June 30th to August 4th. During the trilateral drills, all three countries will dispatch warships equipped with Aegis combat systems, which searches, tracks, and guides weapons using high-powered radar technology. A ministry official said Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo are still adjusting the details for the drills, which aim to provide South Korea with more effective defensive against Pyongyang's advancing nuclear and missile provocations. While the three nations have conducted search and rescue exercises in the past, next month's exercise will focus on sharing information on the detection and tracking of any potential missile threats. However, it won't involve how to actually intercept them. The official also denied the drills are connected to South Korea joining the U.S. missile defense system, as the Japanese Asahi Shimbun implied in a report earlier in the day. There are concerns such speculation could arouse criticism from China and Russia. The upcoming missile defense drills, however, do appear to reflect closer three-way military cooperation, marking progress since the three countries signed an intelligence sharing pact in 2014. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
The government in Seoul has warned of possible kidnapping attempts or act of terror against South Korean citizens near the North Korea-China border. Now, this is the first time the Foreign Ministry has convened over the issue, inviting travel agencies to take part in spreading caution about visiting border areas. Kim Young-gil has more.
South Korea's foreign ministry on Monday warned of the potential dangers that could be faced when visiting Chinese areas bordering North Korea.
There are possibilities that North Korea may kidnap or even commit terror against South Korean nationals near the China-North Korea border, including Mount Baekdu.
North Korea has threatened retaliation against Seoul if it does not send back a group of 13 North Korean restaurant workers who defected south in early April. Pyongyang has repeatedly called for their repatriation. In light of such threats, Seoul's foreign ministry urged travel agencies to be extra careful when selling tour packages to related Chinese border cities.
When South Korean travel agencies sell China travel packages to South Korean citizens, they must explain the dangers of visiting border areas near North Korea and even suggest travelers not to visit those places.
Seoul's government has also warned South Korean missionaries and the press to avoid visiting border regions for personal safety. South Korean embassies abroad are also warning citizens who go overseas to take extra precaution regarding possible threats from the north through mobile phone text messages. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Now, topping the agenda in Seoul's parliament today was whether a song should be designated as an official song during a ceremony to honor the victims of Korea's pro-democracy movement in Gwangju on May 18, 1980. The ruling Saenuri Party, meanwhile, held its first interim emergency council today at Seoul's National Assembly. Our Park Ji-won has a wrap-up.
The ruling Saenuri Party has finalized the 10 members of its interim emergency council and held its first council meeting on Monday, about a month after the Supreme Council was disbanded in the wake of the party's general election defeat. The interim council will lead the Conservative Party until July, when it's expected to elect new leadership. Interim leader Chung Jin-seok said the new members are reasonable and relevant figures.
We have gathered here to change and innovate the party. Our goal is to win the presidential election in 2017.
Also on Monday, the government announced a decision on the controversial song symbolizing the Gwangju Uprising on May 18th. The song March for Our Beloved will be sung by a choir during an official ceremony commemorating the democratic movement, and by those who wish to sing along may do so as in previous years. The song was popular with student activists in the 1980s and was sung by all participants at the ceremonies until 2008. But since 2009, under the conservative Lee Myung-bak administration, the song had only been performed by a choir. The opposition is urging the government to make the singing of the song compulsory to honor the democratic activists.
We've warned that how this administration responds to issue regarding the democratic song could impact how future state affairs are run.
We urge the president to make a responsible decision on the matter by considering what the public truly wants as well as the spirit of May 18th.
The ruling party also expressed regret over the government's decision, given President Park's comments during last Friday's meeting with the leaders of the three main parties to find the best option on the matter to avoid national disputes. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
While Volkswagen is still struggling to overcome the diesel emission scandal that has plagued its reputation and drove down sales, another automaker, Nissan Motor, is found to have used an emission cheating device. Our Kim Hye-sung has the details. Korea's Environment Ministry announced Monday that it's ordering Nissan Motor to recall hundreds of its diesel-powered Qashqai vehicles sold in the country. The ministry accused the Japanese car maker of using a so-called defeat device to allow the SUV to pass stringent diesel emission tests, but helps turn off the vehicle's emissions management system under regular driving temperatures.
Nissan's Qashqai used an emissions cheating device like Volkswagen. Usually, cars turn off the exhaust reduction device when the temperature reaches 50 degrees Celsius to prevent engine from overheating, but the Qashqai turned it off at 35 degrees.
The ministry said it checked 20 diesel models and found Qashqai emitted 20 times more nitrogenous compounds than the standard, while other 19 companies discharged around 1 to 10 times the standard. The government plans to fine Nissan Korea $28,000 and sue the head of the company's local operations. Nissan has denied any wrongdoing and said in a statement that it has not and does not employ illegal defeat or cheat devices in any of the cars it makes. The nationwide recall affects 814 Qashqai vehicles sold in Korea since November 2015 and is likely to negatively affect the automaker's image. Just last month, another Japanese car manufacturer, Mitsubishi Motors, admitted to having falsified fuel efficiency test data since 1991. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News. While staying on the topic of air pollution, how do you feel about the air quality in your area? Well, time and time again, we've seen dust advisories and warnings issued in this country, but it looks like the air quality is worse than we had ever imagined. Fine particulate matters are increasingly taking part in worsening the air we breathe. A new environment index proves so. Our Oh Jung-hee has more on Korea's 7th ranking from the bottom.
I'm very worried about fine particulate matter in the air. When the exposure is high, I tell my children not to go outside.
I feel like there is so much dust in the air, and this is not once in a while, but every day.
Korean citizens are now suffering more and more from worsening air quality, especially because of an increase in fine particulate matter in the air. And a recent index shows that not only is Korea's air quality not okay, but one of the worst in the world. According to the 2016 Environmental Performance Index by researchers from Yale and Columbia Universities, 180 countries were ranked for their performance on 9 environmental issues of high priority. For air quality, Korea ranked 173rd, rounding out the bottom 10, which includes other Asian countries such as China, India, and Bangladesh. Among the top 10 were Iceland, Australia, and New Zealand, with the United States coming in at 43rd and the United Kingdom at 62nd. The report noted that more than 50% of the population in Korea as well as China are exposed to unsafe levels of fine particulate matter. The Korean government has been trying to tackle the issue by implementing stronger regulations on emitters of particulate matter and working with China to prevent toxic dust from floating down over the country. But experts view that Korea has been weak in its efforts to reduce dependence on fossil fuels and carbon emissions, which are directly related to air quality and people's health. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
And more development on the widening probe of a toxic household product scandal. Class action suits are being filed against respective companies as well as the Korean government for failing to protect the health and welfare of the people. Our Lee Min-young has been following this story and she files tonight's report.
Victims of toxic disinfectants sold in Korea have launched a massive lawsuit targeting manufacturers, distributors, and the government. A non-profit lawyers group called Minbyeon, or the Lawyers for a Democratic Society, announced on Monday that it is filing a class action lawsuit on behalf of victims against 22 companies related to the scandal and the Korean government, which it claims is accountable for lapses in safety control.
We are seeking a total of 11 billion won, or $9.5 million in compensation for the victims who have lost their lives and for those who have acquired respiratory illnesses and other permanent physical damage.
The lawyers added that once the court starts to calculate the exact amount of damages incurred, the figure is to reach 10 times higher than the amount originally claimed. So far, 436 people claiming to have been harmed by the humidifier sterilizers have joined the group lawsuit. Meanwhile, consumer and civic activists continue to hold protests calling for the removal of all oxy-racket Benkiser products from the Korean market.
롯데mart vowed not to sell any products manufactured by Oxy, but they are not keeping their promise.
Following similar rallies over the weekend, more than 100 activists from roughly 60 different groups gathered in front of Oxy Korea's head office in central Seoul, Monday afternoon announcing the extension of their boycott campaign until the end of May. They also delivered a letter of protest to the company demanding they immediately halt sales of their products. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
When do you really become an adult? When you can legally drive, when you first move away from home, when you finally find your signature haircut. Well, it's different for everyone, but one way cultures around the world have signified official adulthood is through symbolic coming-of-age ceremonies. Here in Korea, the third Monday of May is the day to celebrate those who turn 19 years old. Korea's 44th National Coming-of-Age Day. Our Lee-shin has more.
The third Monday of May is known as Coming of Age Day in Korea. Over 65,000 young people who were born in the year 1997 are to come of age this year. It is a meaningful day that celebrates the privileges that come with adulthood, such as being able to vote and drive. It also serves as a reminder to young adults that being a grown-up comes with real responsibilities. On Monday at the Namsan Hanok village in Seoul, around 100 local residents who are turning 19 this year were invited to a traditional coming-of-age day ceremony. As part of customs, the young participants got to dress up in traditional attire from the Goryeo dynasty. Young men wore long, elegant robes and hats, while the young women glowed, each wearing a bridal crown on their head. And a speech of encouragement was given while they enjoyed tea and refreshments.
I studied abroad for years and missed out a lot on cultural festivals. Today's event was meaningful to me in many ways.
Being an adult is all about being mature. Now that I'm officially a grown-up, I think I'm going to be more careful about my behaviors.
The event wrapped up with the young adults offering a graceful bow to their parents as an expression of gratitude for the unconditional nurturing and valuable life lessons they received. It was also a fitting gesture that symbolized the humble beginning of their journey in the real world ahead of them. Lee Shin, Arirang News.
Unemployment, especially among those younger job seekers, is a problem all over the world, and Korea is no exception. Now, in February, the youth unemployment rate in this country reached over 12%, the highest it has ever been. But could youth startups be the answer to help solve this crisis? Our Gwangju takes a look at the current startup environment in Korea for the first of this four-part series.
The Korean economy is going through a difficult time. Trade is falling, key industries are struggling, and to top it all off, youth unemployment has hit record highs. With young people finding it ever more difficult to gain employment, one solution that the Park Geun-hye administration has been encouraging is for young people to take a leap and start their own business ventures.
창업이 무한히 이루어지는 아주 창업의 천국이 되는 그런 대한민국으로 이제 뻗어나갈 수 있지 않을까 하는 기대를 합니다.
To that end, the government has created various programs that aim to nurture startup ventures by offering financial support, much-needed workspace, and mentoring events such as these.
청년 여러분, 여러분들은 고귀합니다. 여러분들은 아이디어도 출중하고요, 창의적이고 혁신적이기 때문에 기술과 문화를 융합시켜서 기성세대가 만들지 못하는 새로운 혁신적인 파괴적인 아이디어를 한번 만들어내 주십시오.
We are letting young people know that finding employment is not the only way, but that starting your own business is a path as well. At the end of the day, it's an essential lifeline for our country. It's how the rest of the world is changing.
One young entrepreneur who has benefited from government support is Seoul. After graduating from university, she decided to pursue her dream of starting her own business and attended a government-led business venture school. She developed a new Easy Clean sink stopper unit which prevents drains from clogging, and after receiving a government-backed loan specifically for startups, she set up her own company, Unibath.
Some homes have gone 20 years without any drain blockage problems, but there are some apartments, homes, and hospitals that have a problem every 3 months. So many people have told me how my product has made life more convenient, and it makes me feel great to know it's made a difference.
Unibath is based out of the Seoul Center for Creative Economy and Innovation, a government-sponsored workspace where she and dozens of other aspiring business leaders are able to run their company rent-free.
By providing spaces like these and other support programs, the government has been taking steps to try and help young entrepreneurs find their feet. But there's still perhaps a more fundamental challenge of getting more young people to see starting their own business as a real option for their future.
An online survey last year found that only 6% of young Koreans said they would consider starting a business, compared to over 40% in China. When asked why not, the number one reason cited was the fear of failure and the financial burden that comes with it, rather than a lack of ideas.
If you look at Silicon Valley or China, startups are mostly funded by investments. That means startup costs are shared between the founders and investors, so there is less fear of failure. But in Korea, the majority of business ventures are backed by loans, and if it fails, then it's the individual who is burdened with the costs.
Seoul said she is grateful to have received backing from government-led projects, and although her business hasn't taken off just yet, she has no regrets.
To say, start a business, develop a product is not something I would recommend easily because it does cost a lot and takes a long time. But right now, there is a lot of government support, so it's a good time if you really want to go for it.
Gwangju, Arirang News.
Well, fear has turned into embarrassment and frustration after a Premier League football match was cancelled over a bomb scare at Manchester United's Old Trafford Stadium. Bruce Harrison joins me now in the studio. Now, Bruce, we now know that the device discovered had been left behind from a training exercise.
Yeah, Kun-young, this device, police described it as an incredibly looking explosive device, and apparently a week before, a private security firm had left it in a restroom accidentally during a training exercise with bomb-sniffing dogs.
So this is the first time in 24 years that a Premier League match has been canceled over security issues and apparently because of an oversight.
Yeah, it seems that police agree this was the right decision, canceling the match, evacuating the stadium. But now more of the focus is shifting to the mistake that was made. The BBC reports that the Greater Manchester Mayor and Police and Crime Commissioner Tony Lloyd has called for a full investigation. He called the situation a fiasco and said it caused massive inconvenience to supporters, wasted the time of the police and army, and unnecessarily put people in danger. Fans appeared disappointed but remained calm as they left the stadium.
Hopefully we'll make it back one day, but you know, it's very expensive to fly and to travel here, so yeah.
And unfortunately, we was told that there was some kind of bomb scare, so it was all done very professionally by the police and the stewards.
The game versus Bournemouth has been rescheduled for Tuesday. Internationally renowned Korean film director Park Chan-wook says he's positive about the future of his country's film industry. Park spoke to journalists on Sunday about his latest film, The Handmaiden. He said Korean cinema is in a good state and it's getting better and better.
But now, in terms of balance between the different type of films, we're in a good place. And looking at trends, there's a number of interesting films coming out, and it looks like that trend is here to stay.
Park's The Handmaiden tells the story of a handmaiden sent to defraud a rich heiress, but the scheme becomes complicated when the women fall in love.
Bruce, with Handmaiden, Park once again finds himself in contention for Palme d'Or, the highest prize at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah, that's right. This is his third shot. He had a chance in 2004 when he was invited with Old Boy, a very popular film, and then again in 2009 with his horror flick, Thirst.
Well, the film premiered at Cannes on Saturday, so we'll have to wait and see what the scorecard is for Park.
The jury decision coming out soon.
All right, Bruce, thank you so much for that coverage.
My pleasure.
Well, unlike the heavy rain and strong winds over the weekend, we had some beautiful weather to start the new week. For more on that and the outlook, let's go straight over to our Lee Ji-hyun at the Weather Center. Ji-hyun.
Well, Kanyang, yesterday Seoul received a heavy 45 millimeters of rain, which is quite the opposite of today's fine weather.
Well, we definitely got to enjoy some fresh air, which is a welcome change from the bout of bad air we've been having lately. But will we be able to breathe easier tomorrow?
Well, for most parts, I'd say yes, but the capital region could get relatively high levels of dust in the morning. But skies will be just as sunny as today, so don't forget to drink plenty of water, and also don't forget to apply a good amount of sunblock. Also, it's going to feel like summer across much of the country, with highs reaching about 5 to 6 degrees higher than today, so it's going to be a hot one tomorrow. But the day will start out in the low teens for most parts, as this Seoul will start out at 12 degrees Celsius, but 9 over in Daejeon, while Busan and Jeju will kick off at 15 and 13. And as for the daily highs, Seoul will get up to 27 degrees Celsius, while Daegu will see a high of 29 and 28 for Gwangju. Summer-like days under mostly sunny skies are ahead for the rest of the week here in Seoul, and by Friday, highs will get up to 31 degrees Celsius. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the globe.
And that is our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Moon Gon-young. Hope you enjoyed our show tonight. For our viewers in other parts of the world, have a good one. For those of you here in Korea and across Asia, a good night from Seoul.